So for those of you who don't know me or haven't heard of Home Instead, we're a national provider of home care across Australia. We've been going about 17 years in the country, and last year alone during COVID, we delivered over 1 million hours of care to Australians. So we are quite well known. All our caregivers are trained in all sorts of areas, nutrition and all the usual manual handling and all the compulsory components, but also in dementia care, palliative care. So whether someone just needs 1 hour of assistance at home or a transport shift, or whether they need full 24/7 care, whether it be palliative or dementia related, or motor neuron disease, Parkinson's, there are other conditions that people have that we obviously support. So we're a government approved home care package provider as well. So nowadays, if you're 65 plus and the assessment team say that you're eligible and put you on the waiting list, and then the government give you a home care package, it's up to you to choose a provider. So my role is community relations manager. So I get out and about in the community. I spend a lot of time with social workers and discharge planners in hospitals, liaising and educating them about what's available out in the community, linking up with clients who need support, retirement villages, residential aged care facilities, and the community. Clubs often ask me to come and speak, whether it's Rotary or Probus or church groups or and I obviously am happy to go wherever people just need to understand more about how to navigate getting help at home. Our mission is just to enhance the lives of seniors. So we everything that we do is orientated around helping people navigate so that they can stay at home as long as they want to stay home, which for some people can be right until the end of their life, which is really lovely and beautiful to see that when it really works well. So today I'm talking about keeping safe to avoid hospitalisation, but I do want to say in the beginning, sometimes hospitals are the safest place to be, even during COVID times, depending on your situation. So whilst I'm going to talk today about how we can be proactive and become very aware and mindful of things that we can do to enhance our capacity and our strength and our resilience and our ability to stay at home and stay well, I do want to encourage you to talk with your GP. If you're experiencing things you haven't experienced before, if you discover a lump or a bump, it's not the time to ignore that. Go to your GP and talk to him or her about it. If they do end up referring you to hospital for a procedure, it's better to have that than put it off because of COVID. What we are seeing now is a lot of people that have, for one reason or another, put things off. Their mobility might have decreased, their frailty increased. They might have more going on medically, and so they're going into hospital needing bigger procedures with longer recoveries, and it just becomes a bigger issue. So I would implore you to look after yourselves. Always stay in touch with your doctor, and if you're noticing things, get them attended to. Don't put them off. But today, what we are going to talk to, and someone else has just joined us, who's just coming to the call. Jean, welcome, Jean. We are recording, but you won't be seen. If you do want to put up on your camera, that would be lovely because it means that I can see you, but it won't be, your visual won't be recorded. We will hear your voice if you ask a question. And it's just the libraries are just putting this up for a couple of days for people on request because apparently some people couldn't attend. So just talking today about how we can keep ourselves safe. So we'll flick to the next slide and it'll just give you an overview of, actually, I was going to start with asking you a question, yes, before I give you an overview of what I'm going to cover. So I'm just wondering, I'm in my 50s and I'm noticing some things around my house, that if I'm going to live in this house into my 60s, 70s and 80s, God willing, you know, there's some things that I need to attend to, and I'm already starting to notice those. So is anyone happy to share one, even just one, two or three, you know, but one thing perhaps that you've done that you've noticed already and you've done something about it to keep yourself safe? Or maybe it's someone that you're looking after, caring for, watching it out for. Has anyone done anything or noticed anything even about what needs to be done? Yes, Jenny.
Yeah, sorry, I can't find the link where to type it in. So I've got balance issues because I've got inner ear problems, and I've removed mats and rugs. I've only got one in the house, but I've removed a lot of those, mainly because look, I've got an elderly mother who's had fall after fall after fall, and she will not do anything proactive. Like, she just wants everything as it is. Wow. And so I've learnt the hard way. But yeah, so removing carpets and mats and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yes, that's a great idea. Absolutely. And you know, once we're 65, the statistics go right up. In fact, yeah, I'll talk about a couple of those a bit later, but yeah, the statistics go right up in terms of how often we fall over. Has anyone else got something to say that they might have done around the house? Rugs, decluttering obviously makes a big difference. So you've got clear pathways everywhere you go. No, it doesn't look like anyone's coming off mic, so let's just kick off. So what I'm going to talk about today is looking at inside our home, what we can do, and outside. Both are important. It's all very well to say, you know, our home is our castle, but if the castle's not safe for us, then it's not great. So we'll have a quick look at what we should think about in terms of our medical, physical and mental health and well-being to keep safe. We'll talk about what happens to our senses just naturally as we age, decade by decade, what actually is going on. And if we raise our awareness about that, quite often we can be proactive in preserving what we do have and looking out for any losses that we might have. And I'll just be pointing out a couple of checklists. We do, all this presentation today is based on a book. I don't know if you can see that, but we have a number of 12 different education guides, and this one is called Keeping Safe to Avoid Hospitalisation. We brought this one out earlier this year. So everything that I'm saying and a whole lot more is in that book. I will email, I'll email that through to the library, or you're welcome to let me give you a phone number. If you've got a pen, you can call our office and ask us to send you one, or for me to send you one. So the number at the office is 9754 4861. So we can either email you a soft copy or send you one in the post. So and then we'll just talk a little bit about how getting help into the home when we need it, how that might actually benefit us. So let's just talk first about safety at home and obviously prevention. Obviously prevention is always better than cure. The reason for that is because it's just about being prepared. The benefits always of being prepared, thinking about things before they actually might occur, helps us think more strategically about what we do and what we see and what we notice. So today's presentation, I hope, will help you feel more prepared. That obviously increases our flexibility in considering our options and also our resilience. So our resilience, you know, is growing through COVID. In your life, you've probably already developed levels of resilience. The actual definition is the ability to become strong, healthy, or successful when something bad happens. So the ability of the people who went through the Black Saturday bushfires, you know, their ability to become strong, healthy and successful, even though that bad thing happened, is what resilience is. So during COVID, we are all, and hopefully you're proactively looking at ways that you can build resilience so that you can come out of this, the other end of it, healthy and in a good place, not in a bad place. So just doing the preparation, thinking things through, evaluating our house inside, outside, our health and our well-being, what's going on in my body, what can I do to preserve what I have. They're all ways of building that resilience. And the thing is that we'll always be shocked by the unforeseen if we haven't taken the time to think about things. So anyway, today I hope that this conversation will really help you do that. So I'm just going to, on this slide, talk about a couple of areas. Obviously social isolation, because we're in mandatory social isolation in some ways. What are some of the ways that during this pandemic that you're interacting, you're socially interacting? Obviously today you're interacting of sorts, you know, socially, but what else are people doing? If you're happy to share, just let's help each other. And then I'll just give you a few other ideas that other people have said in other presentations, things that they're doing, just to, even though we are limited in what we can do, what are we doing to actually look after ourselves socially? Obviously with your daughter, Jenny, you know, you're involved in care, in a care situation, which is great. You know, the government, as far as the government's concerned, all care for the elderly is essential. You know, we were busier than ever. We grew last year. So there are a lot of government services that are accessible, and socialisation and interaction with other humans is considered an important part of life. So, so doing this, other suggestions people came up with, you know, getting to know their next door neighbours. There are on Facebook, if you're a Facebook fan, there are resident groups I'm a member of. So for those of you who are from Croydon, there would be a Facebook Croydon group that you perhaps could join. There are apps like Nextdoor. There's a link to the next, if you Google Nextdoor and put in your suburb, you can apply to become part of a WhatsApp or a Nextdoor app, which then puts you in contact with your neighbours, and that's neighbours talking to one another. Some people do jigsaws together or puzzles together on Zoom, you know, just organise a Zoom call like this with each other and just have a time where, you know, they might be having a cup of tea and doing their jigsaw or their puzzle, but they're talking during that time. Other people do, there's a Words with Friends app. So it's like Scrabble, but it's on my phone. So I can fill out a word if it's my turn. And as soon as I've finished filling out my word, the person that I'm playing Words with Friends, they get a notification and they know it's now my turn. And so then they might take an hour, they might take 5 minutes, they might do their turn the next day. But as soon as they've completed their word, I get a notification and I know it's my turn. So there's a little bit of interactivity, you know. So technology is a helpful thing to use if you've got access to it. But other things might be, you know, you might go to the local IGA because that's a little bit smaller and more personal and get to know and have a conversation, you know, with the people who work at the IGA store rather than a large supermarket. Just think about, you know, walking with neighbours, reaching out to neighbours in any way, those sorts of things. But yeah, it's something definitely that we need to be doing. In terms of appetite and weight loss, you know, there's a few myths associated with when we age and what naturally happens in our bodies. And we think, so for example, the myth, if I don't feel hungry, then my body probably doesn't need it. That's actually not true when we're older. When we're older, we actually need more protein than what we did when we were younger, because our protein, our body right until the day we die is renewing. There are cells that are constantly renewing in our body. From our skin cells are renewing and building, the lining of our gut, our muscles, our brain is always storing up backup fuel, our muscles. So our bodies are constantly renewing and generating new cells. So they need protein. Protein is at the center of all of that. So as we get older, we need to be thinking breakfast, lunch, and dinner, where is the protein on my plate? Because we need more, we need to be making sure that we're getting enough protein in our diet. So things to think about, what sort of high protein foods, things like eggs, milk, dairy, cottage cheese is particularly high in protein. Lean meats, whether it's beef, lamb, pork, veal, kangaroo, I was reading recently, lean meats are all good. So just, thinking about eggs, 10 grams of protein per egg. How can I, incorporate protein in my diet? So the reason why that's so important is that research actually shows that about 30% of older people are malnourished. That's what we know. So I'm just talking about mentioning today protein, and we do have a nutrition booklet. Again, you can request the nutrition booklet as well. Happy to send you one, or the electronic version. But if 30% of older people are malnourished, some of the consequences of that are falls, also confusion, increased risk of infection, unnecessary and preventable hospitalisation admissions because nutrition has been poor, things have happened in the body as a result of that, and hospital admissions, post-op complications, having surgery on a body that's not tip-top with nutrients, sometimes leads to post-op complications that were preventable, cognitive decline, and even premature death. So, that's just a few of the negative consequences of being malnourished. So hence it's important as we age just to look at your diet, think about your diet. If you're not sure, probably spending, the last time I went to see a nutritionist, it cost me $125 for the consult. Best thing I ever did, to look at my diet, look at what I was taking in, looking, what I could improve in my own diet, just to maximize, it's like good fuel in, good result, or the best result that you can hope for. So it's just a sign that you're aware of, the risks, and at any age it's good to look at our diet because, as I said, good fuel in, we get the best results in our body. So there's a few other rather intimidating statistics, like from the time we're 40 onwards, we lose about 8% of muscle mass a decade. So that's once you hit your 40s. And then, by the time you get to your 60s, it's more like 15% of your muscle mass decreases. So unless we know that, and therefore think about how I can build up my muscle tone and my muscle strength and my muscle mass so that I'm in a good place in my 40s and then in my 50s and then in my 60s, etc., then we will just follow the natural trajectory that you would follow if you weren't paying attention. So statistically, apparently, and I was surprised to read that 80% of people who are 60 and older, no, sorry, I'll say that again. Those that are 60 and older spend 80% of the day sitting. That's a lot of sitting. So hence, we're sitting right now the more you can stand up and walk about, if that's possible for you, the better. Things to think about are things like strength, use the stairs. If you've got stairs at home, go up and down the stairs when you can. If you need a rail, get a rail put in, and you can access via My Aged Care. If you are starting to feel your balance is off or you need more support in the home, if you qualify for My Aged Care, which is 65 plus, if you're Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, it's 50 plus, but you can ring up via the 1-800 number, you can register, and you can just say, look, I'm struggling, my balance is a bit off, I would like some physio, I would like an OT to come and look at the house and see if, putting in some rails might help me and prevent a fall at some point. So that service is available. You can do gardening, you can do exercise classes, you can stand on your tippy toes or stand on one leg. All those little things, just little things that we do can increase our strength, keep our muscles working. Tai Chi classes or dancing classes once we get out of lockdown, once we are in a different situation from COVID, but those sorts of things are great too. So so let's move on. But so I guess what I'm saying is that before we move on, is there any questions around that? Obviously I'm only dipping into a couple of things, but I think that thinking about all of our life and all of our body and what we can do is always a good thing to work towards preventing some of being part of these statistics. You don't want to be some of these statistics. They're a little bit scary. But anyway, I'll stop talking. Has anyone got a question? No? Okay, we'll move on. So let's look at inside the house and outside the house. Let's do inside first. So, have you thought about your bedroom? What's going on in your bedroom? How cluttered is it? Are there cords and leads on the floor? Is it difficult to get around? Is it a potential? Are you potentially at risk of falling or tripping over something? Just a good thing to look at from time to time. The furniture, the bed, what height is the bed? There are things that you can do to raise the height of the bed. If you've got an old-fashioned, very low bed, ideally your knees should be level with your bottom. When you're sitting on the side of your bed, your knees shouldn't be higher than your bottom. So if your bed is too low, it's obviously difficult to get up and out of. So you might need things like bed legs added or bed raisers added, or you might just need a new bed. Might be good to consider. Stairs, have you got stairs? Therefore, how accessible are they? How big are they? So in my house, I've got front and back stairs, but they're very steep stairs. So if I want to stay here, in my 70s or 80s, I would need to be thinking about reducing the size of those stairs so that they're smaller stairs for me to get up and down. But also think about the surface of your stairs and your outdoor, well, now I'm moving outdoors, aren't I? But yes, we'll go back there in a minute. So yes, surfaces of floors. Is your bathroom or kitchen floor slippery? Maybe now is a good time to do something about that. Fire safety, smoke detectors. When do you check each year your smoke detectors, the batteries? They should be changed every year automatically. Don't wait for the beep thing. Some people do it on April Fool's Day because it's just easy to remember. I always do it in January because it's the start of the year. I start afresh. I do a few things in January. That's one of them, changing my smoke detector batteries. Think about your kitchen and look around in your kitchen and see what can I do to make it easier to move in, to handle. What's your manual handling situation? Have you got old heavy drawers that you have to lift and pull out and lift up and put back in? Or do they roll in and out? What are the height what's the height of the benches? Are they old benches that are quite low? And depending on your height, it's all relative to you and your situation. So, are they at the right height for you, or are you making unnecessary exertion just to cope with the equipment in the home and the actual infrastructure? Simple things like your kettle. Maybe a smaller kettle would be easier for you to handle. Maybe a cordless kettle would help declutter the bench. Things like that you can think about. Smaller, lighter, cordless kettle. Living rooms. Again, look around in your living rooms. What's on the floor? How cluttered is it? How easy is it for me to move around? If I ever needed a walking frame, is there room for that? Or do I need to rethink about the way things are set up? Is the furniture very low? So how low is the couch or my favourite chair to get in and out of? These days you can buy chairs that are electronic. So particularly people with motor neuron diseases or MS, things like that, electronic, that they can be sitting in the chair, press a button, and the chair tilts until they stand. So the chair actually helps them stand. It comes up underneath them and stands them up, and then they grab their frame and they can walk with their frame. So there's amazing equipment available. But way before those sorts of extremes, we just need to think, as we get into our 60s and 70s, how low is our furniture? How much effort am I having to exert to get up? Because if you're finding it difficult, if you're starting to find it difficult now, in 10 years' time, it'll be quite a bit more difficult. So why not prepare so that your lifestyle is enhanced so that you can stay in future? Bathroom, some people put in thermostat controlled. The fact is that you are, once you hit the age of 60 onwards, you're at the same level of risk of a burn as a child. That's how prevalent burns are in older people. And quite often kettles are too heavy, steam on the stove, temperature control in the shower, very hot water system, those sorts of things. So outside, I think someone else has just joined us, Judith. Hello, Judith, welcome. We are being recorded, Judith, but you won't be seen. If you want to put on your camera, that would be lovely if you can. You'll be heard if you ask a question at any time, that's all. So, I think I just flipped to the next slide, didn't I? Yes. So, just want to say one more thing. Just with the outside, so things like ladders, you should always have 3 points of contact if you're on a ladder. But look, as we age, even I in my 50s, it's probably not good for me to be up on ladders. It's amazing how many hospital admissions every year of people falling off ladders. The statistics are enough to make us all think it's probably not a good thing. Outside, I started to talk about the surfaces of your paving stones, the surfaces of your stairs. If they've got moss and algae, you can buy solutions these days to take that off the surface. My neighbours are in their 80s, and the gentleman was actually doing that last week, actually removing, he bought something from Bunnings and he's scrubbing his stairs and his paving stones. A high pressure gun will sometimes do it enough, so that's another option. But having enough support rails, what else did I want to say? Even sensors and lighting. Just having sensors that go on automatically when you're outside so you can see your path. Think about having those put in if you haven't already. We have one client who has voice activated sensors in the home for lighting, heating and cooling. So he can actually put on his heater or put on his lights by a voice command, and they'll come on. So there's an amazing technology available out there today if you want to avail yourself of it. So let's look at our physical, medical and mental health. As in the beginning, you know, while this presentation is about tips to keep you out of hospital and keep you well, GPs are a good friend to have. It's good for your GP to know how you are when you're well, because then when you walk in sick, they know that you're not yourself. As I was saying in the beginning, for those who missed it, if you've got lumps and bumps, get them checked out. Don't put them off because of COVID. Hi, Judith. Nice to see you. Don't put them off during COVID, because, you know, you can end up needing a bigger procedure, bigger treatment, longer recovery, and it's not great. So, you know, I had a cancerous lump that when they found it needed 14 months of treatment. If I'd ignored that, I don't think I'd be here today. So, yeah, I think it's just important. Any lumps and bumps, go to your doctors. With eyes and ears, our brains take three main sources of information to orientate us to. So I know who I am and where I am. That is through my eyes. I can see my surrounding. Through my ears, what I can hear, and the soles of my feet. So through the soles of my feet, I get a sense of orientation to time and place, through what I hear and through what I see. So as we age, obviously our senses change, and we'll go into a bit of that in a minute. But, you know, hence the importance of regular checkups with our eyes, so that we can, any changes that are occurring naturally, we can counteract with glasses, so that we are getting the maximum amount of messages to our brain, which exercises our brain to help orientate us. Same with hearing. Get the doctor every year or so to look in your ears and make sure it's not full of wax. But also have a hearing test. You might just be struggling a little bit. Well, if you're struggling a little bit and you haven't had a hearing test, for all you know, is you might have had a significant hearing loss. And that means your brain's hearing less, which means it's getting less messages to the brain, which again is helping to keep you with it. Feet on the ground. So when balance, Jenny, I think you were saying, you know, with balance, so hence the importance of doing balance exercises. Anything that you can do. And even now during COVID, there are a lot of online Pilates classes and online stretch and online things that you can do with groups, or just tapping into a pre-recorded session. You know, you can do it either way. The cheapest usually is a pre-recorded session that you just start and finish anytime you want. But, you know, just working on our bodies and ourselves so that we counteract what might be happening. What else will we talk about there? We've already talked a little bit about diet. I will say that there are 5.4, just because it's one of the facts, there are about 5.4 million cases of food-borne illnesses every year in Australia. And it's estimated that about 1 in 5 of those, which makes it about 1 million a year, are from poor food handling at home. So that's interesting. And then I've already told you about the burn statistics. So, you know, when I think about food handling, I should also be thinking about my fridge. How often is it being cleaned out? Am I keeping in my pantry all the, you know, food that's got expiry dates? My aunt died last year in her 90s, and my uncle, I asked him and he allowed me to clean out their pantry. And he was a little bit anxious about the fact that I was throwing out things that had passed the expiry date, and we had to come to an agreement that anything that expired before 2019, and it was 2020, but he would only let me, I had to keep some of it, but he had things from 2000, or they had things from 2002, that's a long time ago, that they were using in food, which it's not good for us, So I know you can argue some things about some expiry dates, but look, as I said to my uncle, he's 95, I said, now is the time to focus on nurturing your body and putting everything in that's as fresh as possible, that's as healthy as possible. You're getting enough protein, you're getting enough colour. When you open your fridge, how many colours have you got in food? It's pointless to do like, these fads that are like goji juice and drink bucket loads of one thing or eat bucket loads of one thing because they're high in antioxidants. What we know, nutrition study shows us, is that it's the combination of a number of colours. So when I eat my main meal, I've got my protein on the plate, but I've also got a few colours of other foods. If I've got multiple colours, it's the way they interact with each other that gives us the best benefit, apparently. That's what the nutritionists and dietitians are telling us. So yeah. So I think in terms of our actual senses and what's going on, we're born with about 9,000 taste buds, and as we age, the salt and the sweet taste buds are the first to go. So I've already noticed for myself that I feel like I'm putting on more salt on my meal, but it's not tasting as salty. So, and it wasn't until I was preparing for this presentation the first time I realised, maybe I'm just not tasting the salt I used to. So I need to think about other spices I can use to bring flavour rather than just pouring on more and more salt. Tasting less but consuming more, which might put me at risk of other things. So they're sort of good things to think about. In our nerve, like our nose, in our nerve endings, we have less nerve endings as we age and less mucus. So how does that affect us? We may not smell as effectively. We may not detect a gas leak. We may not detect that we're actually, the pot is burning on the stove until much later than what we would, which kind of stacks up with the increased risk of burns for people who are 60 and older, if that's also happening. So I did read in preparation of this presentation that we can actually train our nose to be more sensitive to smell. So if you just smell for a few weeks, every day you select 4 very different smells like clove, eucalyptus, lemon, basil from the garden, or rosemary, but 4 very different smells, and smell them every day, your nose will actually, it's like training your sense of smell, I guess. So that's a way of preserving it. So that's what I'm doing. I've got some little bottles of essential oils, and I spend a few minutes just sitting, and I don't look at which one I pick up. And I'm picking up a bottle and I'm smelling, and I'm noticing that I am getting much better at recognising which ones I'm actually smelling. So you can turn your nose. Does someone want to say something to that? I'm hearing someone remark. Our sight, obviously, it was funny. Again, I realised what's happening in my body in preparing for this the first time, because I had said to my doctor earlier this year, if not late last year, are my pupils smaller? Like, am I okay? Should my pupils be this small? And in reading for this presentation, your pupil size from 60 onwards is a third of the size of what they were in your 20s. And I'm not 60 yet, but already I've noticed that my pupil sizes, so hence the need for regular eye checkups, so that one, you can compensate if there's any loss of vision with that, there may or may not be, but also to pick up macular degeneration, glaucoma, things that become common as we age as well, so that they can be get under control. So these are the sorts of things that are happening in our body just automatically as we age. So being aware, being prepared, being proactive, makes us more resilient. We keep what we have, we improve what we have, so that the loss is slower, hopefully. In this booklet, that for those of you who've joined us later, happy to post you one, Keeping Safe to Avoid Hospitalisation. It's one of our education guides. There are a couple of checklists, one for a general checklist for around the home, which covers all things from medical appointments to medications to eating fruit and veggies, water consumption, just things to think about. Are you thinking about those? And then one that's around the house, things around the house that you can actually look at and think about, which covers some of the things that we've already talked about. Just on medications, as we age, you can get medication reviews now, which are government subsidised quite heavily, where a pharmacist even will come to your home. During COVID, they probably won't. I don't know whether they're doing online or not, but that is something that's there in the system that you can have, or you can go to your local pharmacist and book in for a, not every pharmacy does that, but some do, where they'll have someone do a medication review there with you. So advanced care directives and planning. Advanced care planning is things like thinking about your medical power of attorney, your financial power of attorney. Medical treatment decision maker is now what we call the medical power of attorney, and the guardian is all rolled into one, which is your medical treatment decision maker. So your old medical power of attorney still applies. Just because we've now got a new form and a new name, your old one still applies, but you might want to review that. Talk to your solicitor about the advantages of reviewing that. Advanced Care Directive is a government document that you can fill out and get signed by your GP that is your wishes, expresses your wishes. So should you be in intensive care, should your outcome not look good, that you wouldn't ever necessarily wake up, you can give an instruction what you would like in those circumstances. I've just this week re-signed off. I've updated my will. I've appointed new financial power of attorneys, because the reality is we live in a COVID environment. So advanced care planning, advanced care directives, doing estate planning. We have another booklet on that, how to plan for successful aging, which includes discussion around some of those things. Again, on request, I can send you one. So, but it's good to think about those things. Not only appoint a medical power of attorney, but talk to them about it. Like ask them, are they willing? But have conversations about what you would want. That's the most important thing, that the person who is going to act for you, should you not be able to speak, if you were unconscious or not able to, that someone in the world knows what you would want, what decisions you would make, and they can represent you, not them, you. So that's why we have powers of attorney, and that's why we now have advanced care directives. So good things to think about. So what difference does getting care or thinking about getting care, why do people get care? Our motivation in what we do as a company is always to enhance the lives of those who wish to remain independent and in control at home. So whether we're referring you to a service, whether we're providing a service, whether we're providing part of a service for you, we have a team of 7 care managers who sit down and look at your challenges, look at your goals, put together a care plan, and then match you with caregivers we think you'd enjoy, who are local, and then it all goes from there, whether it's privately funded or government funded. As I was saying in the beginning, for those who joined us since, with government home care packages, now the way the government have set it up is they've created a consumer-directed care environment. You might have heard of that terminology. What that means is it's consumer-directed. As consumers, we direct what we want. We choose what we want. So the way they've organised home care packages is that once the government offer you your package, they say, now you must choose a provider. You go and do the homework, you compare the providers, you find out who's out there. You sign up with one, because you can only sign up with one, and then they will provide the services and we'll fund it via them. So that's the environment that we now find ourselves in. In that environment, we are very happy. There's no obligation to come and meet with families, meet with individuals, just go through what their needs, challenges, what their care plan would look like, what the budget would look like. Is there any money left over in the package after, we've done what you would want us to do, or are we in deficit? If we're in deficit, the option is to pull back on those services and find an alternative, whether that be family or a community service or something else, volunteer or whatever. Or some people elect to top it up privately. They may, pay for an extra couple of hours a week if that means they can stay at home rather than have to sell their whole home and go into live-in care. So, it's everyone's situation's different. So, it's pointless kind of trying to imagine every single scenario and covering all of those here. The idea would be to just call the office and ask for a visit or a conversation with one of the care managers and take it from there and guide you through. But, having a carer in the home that's trusted, that's regular, there's continuity, means there's a sense of companionship, socialisation is taking place. They can watch out for you and with you. If your physio or your GP has given you exercises to do, they might help you do those, because your balance might be off. And so they might just be able to go through that sheet with you, go for a walk with you, because it's really possibly not safe for you to go alone, if and when that time should come. So they're just watchful. It's another set of eyes. It's like a friend in the field, I guess. They can just be a little bit proactive with you. I can hear movement. Does someone want to ask a question to that, or no? Okay. So I guess our focus and the focus of having any carer in there would be to maintain your safety, help provide nutritious meals, whether that means you're just struggling with driving to and from the supermarket. So maybe they'll drive you there, go shopping, carry your heavy bags, but you still want to go yourself. Some people don't want that. Some people might just want the carer to go get the shopping and bring it home. Or some people might still want to cook, but just not up to cooking on their own. So the carer cooks with them. That's a lovely scenario, and choosing recipes and cooking what they actually like, or they may not be up to that. They just might want a carer to come in and cook for them, sit down, have a cup of tea while they eat, a bit of socialisation, nutrition. We absorb our food better when we're being social. In COVID, I quite often will sit down with a friend, organise to have dinner over Zoom together. So we might order takeaway that night. So it's a bit of a treat, or not, or we've both cooked our meal, but it's 7 o'clock. Let's have dinner together over Zoom. That's kind of a nice, relaxed way of Zooming. So, but yeah, so carers are there to support you, basically. And if you don't like your carer or you don't like the organisation that you've signed up with, you can always change. you're never obliged in this now consumer-directed care market to stay with a situation that you're not actually happy with. So I just think that's also a good point to make.